Welcome to the Innovative Pedagogy Podcast. I am your host, Chris Garcia, and today we have an episode to support all those parents that have no choice but to begin homeschooling their kids during COVID-19. However, I am super stoked to present to all of you a great resource known as Chips and Salsa Homeschooling. They've shared their knowledge through various workshops such as Springs Charter School's conferences, the Rock Church, and also have their own YouTube channel. Their motto is to offer fun, practical, and encouraging tips. I would like to introduce to all of you Ximena Avalos and Dede Whitley. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Oh my gosh, it's really, really exciting to have you guys. And I'll just add this personal note right here, only because people might be wondering, like, how did you find these guys? Well, I myself have known Ximena for the last... Oh my gosh, well, if I was 12 and I'm 35 now, I have to do the math really quick. 23 years? Wow, it's been a long time. That's almost a lifetime. That's almost like, those kids are already graduated college that were born then. But either way, Ximena is my aunt, and I've seen her and Dede go through this amazing journey of homeschooling their kids. And it's been really, really cool just to watch them on YouTube and to even interact with my own cousins and seeing how academically savvy they are and how the pedagogy practices that you guys have and that you guys are instilling are really, really cool. So I want to thank you ladies again for taking time. I know it's a busy time for you guys right now, but I really appreciate you guys being with us today.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
Yes, we're so happy to be here.
Great. And so just let's go ahead and dive in really quick, because I know there's a lot of parents out there that are trying to maybe they're listening to this because they have a break from their kids and even yet trying to figure out how to help them. But with your experience, how can a parent, so basically the question is, how can one as a parent first respond to the idea of oh my gosh, I need to teach my kids now and I don't even know what I'm doing? How would you guys approach and give wisdom to those kind of parents?
Well, first of all, stay calm. You can do it. And we like to remind parents that when you brought home your child for the first time when they were a baby, you didn't know what you were doing. If you were like me, I didn't know what I was doing. But you worked through it, and you just wanted to give your children the best that you could. And that's exactly what you need to do during the season.
Yeah, and I second that. Even when they're older, as toddlers, before they're going to preschool, before they're going to kindergarten, you just find a way to manage, right? And you have your structure, and you have your park days, and you have nap time, and that kind of thing. And we just do that naturally as parents. I always like to tell everybody that you are your child's first teacher. Your children are constantly learning from you, whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not, and that doesn't change just because they're older now. It's really important. Education is happening at all times in the home.
Absolutely. And I remember even kind of talking to you about that a few weeks ago. Even just to tie in with our district superintendent there at Chula Vista, Dr. Francisco Escobedo. I've heard him say a few times when he addresses parents, and he always says it in Spanish too. He basically says what he was taught as a kid, and that was la educación comienza en la casa, meaning that education begins at the home. So I can totally see that. I can totally see that even with the students that I've had. A lot of teachers give attribution like, oh my gosh, you're such a great teacher. But in reality, I've noticed that the students that I've had that have been these GATE students, these gifted and talented students, have been the ones with the most parental support at home, and the ones where the parents are there to encourage them and to guide them. And unfortunately, I've also seen where there's lack of parent support, those are the students that need a lot more traditional support from myself. So what you guys are saying is very, very spot on. Is there anything else you guys like to add to that as far as how do you even just think of approaching different practices? I mean, you guys, Ximena, I know you have my two cousins, and their age gaps are completely different. And Dede, I know you have your boys as well, and their age gaps are completely different. So how do you guys cater to each one, especially with where they're at?
Well, before I answer that, because I want to just say too, one of the things with just being supportive at home is not trying to be something you're not, and not expecting things from your children that they're not. So like, I'll answer both questions, but you don't have to try to be a super parent or try to be like a school teacher. Mm-hmm. You just have to use the gifts and talents that you have and work off of that. And then look at your child individually. Like my children are about almost 3 years apart. And I look at my children differently and their needs and their learning styles. Things that really interest Carlo, my son, mm-hmm. don't interest Isabella, or things that really interest Isabella don't interest Carlo. So I take advantage of every opportunity. If I'm, let's say, frying an egg, and I can at that moment be like, oh my gosh, look at this reaction, or look what's happening here, or you guys want to see how to, steam an egg really quick? It doesn't even have to be scientific. You know what I mean? Like it could be anything. I just try to really take advantage of every opportunity to teach. As far as the way that Dede and I teach our kids, like multi-level, we teach the same subjects all the time because there's general things that every child needs to know at every age, right? Every child, every person should know world history, right? Just in general. So we teach world history together. Science is the same thing. We teach science together, although my daughter's now in high school, so she has to have her own science. But before, you just teach it all at the same time, and they're comprehending it at different levels, and you're expecting different assignments at different levels. I don't know if you want to add something, Dede.
Well, yeah, just to tag along with what Chris was saying about parents coming alongside their kids really does help with their academic success. And I think some parents just feel intimidated. But you have to remember, you don't have to know everything to be a support for your kids. And like you're saying, you teach them the things you do know. And sometimes that might not be necessarily academics. Maybe you weren't strong academically, but you can provide them with the life skills and with other knowledge that they're going to grow on. And that's only going to help support them in their other learning.
No, that's really, really good. And I can totally see that as far as being able to make everything practical, being able to bring what we call it is realia, making sure that every opportunity is a learning opportunity, every moment's a learning moment, and every chance that you have with your child, it's basically, I remember I talked about this in the previous episode that I did, but it's more important than just teaching them just the standards, because I mean, even as homeschool parents, I know we've talked, Ximena, where you're still given standards and you still are accountable to that, and at the same time, even myself as a teacher, but then yet, like, what are we doing really to teach the game of life, really? And especially at this point in time, when we're all stuck together, how are we teaching them to cope with these challenges that life is currently bringing all of us? How are we going to model to not only our kids, but even our students and the people that are watching us? So that's really, really powerful. And that even leads us to the whole idea of being stuck at home. And that's the next biggest thing is, we're out of our routines. We're out of our schedules. I mean, even sleeping in for some of us. And like for me, I'm normally getting up around 5:30, 6 o'clock for work. And today I get up at 7 o'clock and I'm like, I'm supposed to be at work. And I mean, so that goes with the whole idea of like having a schedule. So what kind of pace or schedule should parents keep in mind when it comes to supporting their child and even supporting their child with the schoolwork that schools are offering them or they're trying to create there at home?
That's such a great question because routine is key. It's so important to really sit down and plan out like what the flow of your day is going to look like. And I kind of look at it like you're the manager of your little home office now. Like a lot of parents are still working from home, plus their kids need to be doing schoolwork. So imagine you're the boss of your home and how are you going to manage the time? So making sure there's learning time, but also there's breaks. And sometimes the kids just need to be reminded, drink water, go play outside, so that they're not getting off track. And I know also a lot of the kids are on their computers, making sure they're actually doing their work and not playing video games during their work time. Yeah, I think too, to keep it simple is really important. So like during this time, I keep encouraging parents. I think a lot of the reason why this fear takes over is it's just a mindset of I have to be a teacher. I have to know how to teach my children.
And again, that's not necessarily so. You could just be a support. And so I always say stick to the 3 R's when it comes to your schedule. This is something that we teach in homeschooling, the 3 R's of homeschooling, which is reading, writing, and they say arithmetic, right? So math, reading, and writing are really the most important things. Math is something they have to keep practicing, right? So they don't forget. Reading is just a life skill that you need forever. And so is writing. And you can mix history and science in the reading and the writing. You don't have to have like specific times for everything, depending on the grade they're in, of course, and depending on the assignments that they have from their school right now. But really, if you have like a bare bones day when you're like, I can't handle more than 2 things today, well then make sure it's like math and reading or something like that, totally. And then add in like some free writing. So just keeping it simple and knowing that that's the bare bones, and you don't have to do everything in one day if you're overwhelmed.
That is actually very, very powerful, because even as a teacher, those are the 3 things that they really focus on and that we put a big emphasis. When it comes to us even analyzing their grades, the growth of a student, it's always the reading, writing, and math. Those are the 3 benchmarks. So definitely that is a very, very powerful sentiment. And I'm even thinking to myself, like, hey, like if it's one of those days where like, I know what, I don't want to plan anything, let's just read. Let's read all day, and let's do a little bit of math problems, play some board games. Let's do things that are going to at least stimulate our brain, and let's do it outside so you get some fresh air as well. So
yeah, following that creativity, you don't have to replicate school at home. And that's another thing that Dede and I always talk about, especially during this time. We're all going through this together. Even us as homeschool moms, this is not our norm. This pandemic is not our norm. So we're finding to be flexible with having to be flexible with our schedule and changing it up. I found my children were like burned out last week. And so I changed it up. I said, we're going to do, just mostly reading. You're going to do math, and then we're skipping the rest, and we're just going to watch history documentaries and talk about them, and we're going to play games. And so, there's things that you need to do and be flexible, and you have the right to do that as a parent. You have the flexibility and the knowledge, the intuition. This is what we like to empower parents, because your children best. When they're about done with something, and there's no need to like just continue to force it and stress everybody out, including yourself, So it's not, I think, to take the moments that are, make the best of every moment, even if it's a short time, is more powerful than trying to get all this work done,
Right.
Yeah. And just keeping things flexible and being realistic with what you're going to actually get accomplished. And in our homeschool, we like to have, 3 or 4 days of work days and a rest day. And, sometimes we'll call a nothing day, we'll just relax. So like you said, Ximena, being intuitive about where everybody's at so that we don't get burned out.
Yeah.
No,
it's just important.
That's important also, because as you're saying that, it's reminding me of even just encouraging parents to just focus on just keeping it simple when it comes to, and what I mean by that is review time. As far as, so a lot of these schools that are trying to move into distant learning, they're trying to think, and teachers are under the impression where, how am I going to teach new content to my students? When in reality, a lot of schools aren't being encouraged, just teach review. This is like, for a lot of school districts, especially here at Chula Vista where I'm at, this is the last quarter. We're entering the last quarter before summer break. And in reality, we would have just been reviewing with our students everything we've already hammered in from July all the way through before we went on spring break. So now it's just time to encourage that review time. So, I would just even add on there, like, hey, for those parents, just review like whatever it is that your kid needs to know, and they'll be ready. I feel like it's one of those things. Kids are smart, and they're a lot smarter these days with YouTube. You guys know it. You have your channel, but at the same time, like, kids can learn. They try to problem solve, and that's one thing I'm always telling my students. I'm like, I'm working with the YouTube generation. You guys are the ones where if you're trying to find a specific level of passing on a specific video game, you will go deliberately watch somebody else play that video game for several hours and then go and mimic mimic it yourself because you guys are smart. You guys are able to retain that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, that's my whole approach when it comes to like keeping kids at home and keeping them where parents don't feel the need, or even teachers. We're like, how do I introduce new stuff to them? But even on that aspect, how do you guys approach? What if there's a concept that you guys don't even know, and yet like, how would you approach teaching something that you haven't learned or mastered yet? And yet like, all right, I got to introduce this to my students, my kids. Like what's your feelings and how do you approach that? How do you coach yourself pretty much?
We Google it.
Exactly. We watch YouTube videos.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, that's really it. We live in an era where like everything is at your fingertips. So if it's not most of the curriculum that we buy has, instructions for us, homeschool curriculum, but there's books. I mean, really our way of teaching is very loose in that sense when we take from different places. We don't just read our instruction, our teacher's instructional manual and that's it. No, we research YouTube videos. We talk about it amongst ourselves. I'll pick somebody's brain that I know. Like if it's like a chemistry concept that I don't know, I'll go to Dede first because she's the science-minded one. I'm not. And so it's just like pulling in your village and the people that you know that can help, and also seriously the internet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, and just about what you were saying about review, games are a great way to review. Mm-hmm. So, when we have Amazon. So you can get games on the subjects that you want to review and have fun with it. And you actually learn, from the game questions so much more probably than you would have learned reading.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And also to remember that, we talked about this already a little bit, that not all learning is academic, especially right now. It's a really good time to have those deep conversations with your children and help them process their feelings. I just saw something, we posted it on our Facebook about COVID-19 time capsule, and they get to just fill out these sheets on how are they feeling? What are they doing? Just kind of for them to remember this time, and how, and I thought that was very powerful because that's the kind of thing that we could be doing. And I've been telling parents that, Chris, is, it's spring break, or now, for some people it's over. But then after that, you're reviewing or getting prepared for the state tests, which have now been canceled. So you can relax and not feel like you have to teach the world right now.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's going to help parents feel more at ease and more empowered.
Well, that's a great segue because it leads us to the last question, and that's actually now focused on the parents, not so much on the kids. But and I think you guys, I would love to hear what your mindset is around this. But how can parents take care of themselves before they attempt to support their kids? And I asked that question with that whole airline mentality, as far as if for some reason your air mask falls down and you put it on yourself first and then put it on your passenger. So what are the things that you feel that you guys have experienced, but to take care of yourselves rather than before you take care of your kids, so that way you guys are in the right place to support them?
Yeah, we talk about self-care a lot. We have videos on our YouTube channel about self-care because it is so important to take care of yourself so that you have something to give, so that you're not snapping at your kids and your spouse and your friends because you're so worn out. But you have to be intentional about it. And like I said, with the routine, it's like setting up a routine. Homeschool has a way of taking over your whole house, your whole day, your whole life, if you let it. So you do have to be intentional about, okay, this is work time, this is play time. And it's for the parents to get plenty of rest, drink water, take care of yourself, go outside. Sometimes as a homeschool mom, I'll realize I sent the kids outside, but I never even got fresh air myself because I got caught up doing chores or checking my email or whatever. So remembering those things.
Yeah, and having time to yourself whenever you can. I think what I'm struggling with right now, and I'm sure a lot of parents relate, is the fact that I don't have my normal hey, let me go have coffee with Dede. You know what I mean? Like outside of the home and not have my kids with me, So I think
we're tired of virtual high five.
Oh, yeah. It's not the same. And honestly, I think that's something to take in mind right now. So be patient with yourself and be graceful with yourself. I mean, I'm going to be really honest. Last night, I told my family, I'm going into my room and I want to be left alone for a few hours because it takes a toll on you. And again, because we're not living our normal life, normally we would tell you, hey, community is self-care. Go out, go have girls' night out, go have coffee with people that are going to encourage you, that are going to, do things that bring you life, if that's going on a walk with a friend or even by yourself, And right now it's hard to do those things. So be creative and try to do them at home, set some time to read by yourself. Maybe tag team it with your husband if you have younger kids and be like, can I just go and read outside? Can you take care of the kids, or can I paint? Whatever it is, but it is absolutely really important. And I put here on my notes, reward yourself with an activity that you're looking forward to, because I think that's important too, is to remind yourself, hey, we're going to do this lesson or we're going to do this project. But after that, you guys get to, go draw or go read your favorite book, and mommy's going to have her time over here, doing whatever it is that you want to reward yourself with, whether it be watching an episode of The Office or reading your favorite book or just sitting in silence.
Well, yeah. I like that you said about doing some art, Ximena, because I feel like when we express ourselves artistically, that brings us so much art, whether it's music or dance or painting or sculpting. I think all of us, the kids included, need to express ourselves with art, and that will bring us life. If you could steal away for a moment and indulge in your art, you will feel so much better.
Oh my gosh, that's really cool, because I mean, as you're saying that, I'm reminded, I just bought a drawing pad, and the other night I just was looking at an image of, I love superheroes. Ximena knows that, and like my cousins know that. So I actually drew a portrait of Iron Man, and when my wife saw it, she's like, I did not know you know how to do that. And I was like, yeah. And the truth is, I haven't drawn like that since I was in 6th grade. So actually, probably 23 years since I met Ximena for the first time. But either way, it was it's an outlet, and I feel that a lot of parents and a lot of individuals, even myself, we're realizing how as much as extrovertness as we are, as much as we love hanging out with people, there's times where we just want to be left alone. Even like currently right now, as I'm recording this episode, my wife's like, I'm going for a run. I will see you in a couple hours. I'm going to run, walk. And I'm like, go for it. Have fun. Do it. And the nice thing is, it's like, I mean, distance does make the heart grow fonder, So, it's one of those things where you have to have those boundaries. But at the same time, it's for your own good. Even I've noticed, like, when I'm teaching in the regular part of the school year, I come home and I'm exhausted. I do not like to go out at night. I do not like to hang out with people. And if I do, I'm really pushing myself. But then yet when I'm on spring break, I'm the type of person that I will sleep until like 9, 10 o'clock, and I will be up till 12, even 1. I can still do that. But I mean, that's because I'm on spring break and I'm hanging out with people. So I think it's a very crucial time where people are realizing, wow, I'm a lot different than I thought, or I'm learning where my energy goes and how I'm expending it at times. So do you guys have any last words of wisdom before we finish off our segment here?
Just reminding everybody that this is a temporary situation. And it's like, how we're talking about art, really taking advantage of this unprecedented time to do the things that we wish that we had more time to do, like drawing, and having deep conversations with our kids and getting to know each other in a deeper way. Even with your toddlers, sometimes I know when I had all my kids were toddlers, I felt like I didn't always enjoy it because it was so hectic and crazy. But when I sat down and really listened to the funny things that they said, man, they were so fun. And so we miss out on some of that fun stuff when we're just go, go, go. So slow down and enjoy.
Be present. I spoke to a girlfriend of mine yesterday who was telling me that this time has really been joyful for her. She has a boy my age, and not my age, my boy's age, so 11, and then a teenager. And, you know, she never saw her teenager because she's always in plays and school and just a lot of activities. And she was just expressing to me how much she's enjoying this time of getting to know them in a deeper way, you know, because truth be told, our kids are out, you know, if they go to traditional school, they're out most of the day. And if you work, then you don't really get to see them very often during the week. And then you add activities on top of that. So it is a great time to restore that in families and to, like Dede was saying, get to know your children and really enjoy them because time flies.
Awesome.
Yep. And before you know it, they'll be like Chris and have a wife and their own life.
Yeah. I know. I mean,
your own podcast show.
Yeah, that too. You never know what's going to happen. But I want to thank you, Ximena and Dede, so much for just being our guest today on Innovative Pedagogy. And I want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in today. Please feel free to send an email to cbgarcia@sandiego.edu with any questions or topics of discussions. Also, be sure to follow us at Innovative Pedag on Twitter as well with all the latest episodes. But also, I want to also give a plug in to make sure you follow Chips and Salsa on YouTube and also on Twitter and on Instagram. More for our parents. You'll find them on Instagram. So please go ahead and give them a follow for all your updates and needs. And there's a lot more content. We just pretty much hit the tip of the iceberg with these ladies right here. So they have a lot more wisdom and content and stories to share. So you can find all their material on Chips and Salsa on YouTube and on Instagram. So thank you once again, ladies, and we will hopefully talk again soon if anything else comes up.
All right. Thank you.